Hi, this is Judge Crudup. Welcome to my storybook. Today, I'm here to read the final part 3 in this series called Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Basketball Hall of Famer, the greatest player of all time. We're here to read Chapter 4 in this book. We begin the page, starting page 69. Los Angeles, the Lakers. Jabbar felt happy to be back in Los Angeles, actually when he felt grounded. That season was both good and bad for the future Hall of Famer. He had one of the best seasons of his career. He had led the league in rebounds and block shots, was second in scoring, and was chosen as MVP for the full time. However, basketball is a team sport, and Jabbar was only one player. He couldn't make up for a lack of talent in other positions. Jabbar was hot, but the team finished in fourth in the division. Joining the Lakers had not been enough for Jabbar to get on a winning team. The next season, the Lakers failed a bell. They made it to the playoffs, but two of their players were injured. The Portland Trailblazers beat them again, but this time in 4 consecutive games. A second marriage and a new maid. It was around this time that Jabbar met the woman who would, in 1979, become his second wife, Sherry Pisner. She helped him see how much he had closed himself off from other people, and how cycling he'll become as a result of his forced isolation. In his book, Giant Steps, Jabbar recounted how, on their first date, he told Shirley about his life. I dribbled the ball and down a court. If we could consider that a job. Jabbar had never liked being asked for photographs because he felt that only pets were interrupting his day to ask him to sign something. Sherry helped him realize that fans who asked for photographs were doing so because they were monitoring and marrying him. They appreciated the way he played basketball. She told Jabbar it was an assault. It was an insult to ignore people who were trying to express their imaginations. Jabbar changed his mind about his fans. He learned to appreciate that most of them were people who failed to show him their loyalty and affection. During the 1978-1979 season, Jabbar was pleased that the Lakers chose him to be their captain. The Lakers didn't have much talent in their favor in their forwards, thought, so they had a difficult time. They finished the season in third place, and no one sat down to pass the first round of the playoffs. Despite anyone's low expectations of them, the Lakers beat the Denver Nuggets 112 to 111. They lost to the Seattle Supersonics in the next round, but they have proved that they could still win. Jabbar was desperate over the loss, but then something wonderful happened. A television sportscaster named Ted Dawson asked people to send Jabbar and the Lakers telegrams to tell them how much they were appreciated. Within days, the mail started piling up in stacks. The support from the fans meant so much to Jabbar that he kept every letter. Little he still had them in an effort to brighten his image. Jabbar did more interviews. He tried to offer more himself because he realized now that people really like him. One night he looked right into the camera during an interview and said, Hi to my mom and pops in New York. Their reaction, their reaction was incredible. Everyone loved the fact that Jabbar had acknowledged his parents and his home city. The next season promised to be even better. Irvin Magic Johnson was drafted to be on the team, and two strong forwards had also been signed. The new owner had personally negotiated Jabbar's new contract, which Jabbar took as a sign of respect. He felt much more positive about the Lakers. The team had a great season and finished first in their division, but Jabbar was eager for another championship. It had been 7 years since he had been on a winning team, and he wanted to hold the NBA title again. The Lakers and the Philadelphia 76ers split the first four games in the series. During Game 5, Jabbar was injured. The team doctor asked him if he wanted to go to the hospital right away, but Jabbar had the doctor tape up his ankle instead. He went back out on the court and continued playing. His ankle hurt him badly, so much that he couldn't jump. Even in pain, Jabbar went on to score 40 points and won the game 5 and won the game by 5 points, heading to the local hospital for x-rays. Shortly after, unsurprisingly, he was again voted the league's MVP. Jabbar missed the final two games while we captured it at home, but the Lakers won. Jabbar didn't like missing the games and victories with their team, but finally he was on a championship team again. It took some time during the off-season to act in the movie's Airplane, in which he played the part of Roger the co-pilot. The movie's success made him even more recognizable to people, even those who weren't interested in sports. Everything seems to be wonderful. The Lakers were on the top of their game. They had no championship win 2 seasons left, with Jabbar there to celebrate. When the next season started, they looked hot. Jabbar looking forward to another winning season and another possible championship. Foul. Then tragedy struck. While Jabbar was on the road, his house caught on fire. Sherry and their son, Owen Amar, were home when she was awakening to find the house constantly in flames. Fortunately, everyone got out safely. However, everything Jabbar owned was destroyed. His collection of jazz albums had melted. His four Qurans from the Middle Ages were now a pile of ashes. Lovely pieces of art he had carefully selected over the years had been incinerated. Fire and smoke had destroyed a lifetime of photographs, belongings, and clothing. Jabbar was shocked. I would think about reading a book or listening to an album or putting it on a favorite shirt and they'll be gone, he said in giant steps. His world had turned upside down. Now Jabbar had another opportunity to realize how much he meant to other people, and radio stations sent him 1,500 jazz albums to help replace his collection. Many people from around the United States sent Jabbar gifts, and good gracious, he was grateful to all the people who showed their support and was surprised once again to find that his fans cared. And uncensored future. By 1985, some people were eliminated that Jabbar, now almost 40, was too old to play the game. During the season finals, the Lakers met the Celtics and were defeated in the first game of the series with a final score of 148 to 114. People thought the Lakers were split, but Jabbar took it upon himself to change those opponents. First, he spoke to anyone at the team meeting and apologized. He said he hadn't done as well as he could have, and he will do better in the second game. He was a, he was so calm and determined that the rest of his teammates took heart. In the second game, he scored 30 points and blocking an important shot by one of the Celtics with only 4 minutes left in the game. He also broke the record for most points scored in the playoffs by a single player. As a result, the Lakers won their game by 7 points. The Lakers also won the third game with Jabbar scoring 26 points. The other team lost the fourth game to the Celtics. They won Game 5. The final game was played at the Celtics' home court in Boston, so most fans believed that their win was settled. But Jabbar scored 18 points in the second half, and the Lakers won by 11 points. Afterward, a joyful Jabbar surprised everyone. He sprayed his teammate. He sprayed his teammates with champagne to celebrate the well-deserved title. Laker Day. When the team returned to Los Angeles, they were greeted by a welcome parade. The mayor of Los Angeles declared the day of the parade to be the Laker Day. Everyone was thrilled that the home team had won and was overjoyed when Jabbar was named the MVP of the tournament. For Jabbar, the end of the 1984-1985 season was one of the highlights of his long career. The 1988-1989 season was Jabbar's last year of professional play, as he said in his book Kareem. I never thought when I started out that I would end up playing basketball longer than anyone has ever played the game before. I can remember very keenly being a rookie and wondering what guys they after playing professional ball for 10 years. After 20 years, Jabbar finally had to figure it out for himself, even though some people wanted him to leave even early because of his injuries. Jabbar wasn't a quitter. He sat out a few games, but then he went right back to playing his best. The Lakers, however, was swept in the tournament that season by Detroit. The following NBA season, during Jabbar's final season, many wonderful things happened. A special ceremony was held at Madison Square Garden, where Coach Donahue had taken by the lone basketball fan when he was a high school player. He received many gifts, and he was written about some of his old teammates from the Paul Moore Academy team. They and Coach Hawkins had coaching him during his days at St. Joe's were introduced to the hostile crowd. Pat Riley, who had coached Jabbar during several of his years on the Lakers, made a toast that was recounted in Sports Illustrated. When a man has broken records, won championships, endured tremendous criticism and responsibilities, why, Judge, let's toast him as the greatest player ever. Coach Riley put into words what many people felt in their hearts. Other teams honored Jabbar in cities around the country, including Philadelphia, Boston, and New York. In Los Angeles, thought the celebration of Jabbar's career was truly stimulating. The street was even named for him. Before the last game of their regular season, a special trooper was held. Jabbar's parents and children were there to watch as he was honored by the entire city of Los Angeles. Jabbar's teammates sang a moving tribute to him and gave him a world's voice. President George H. Bush sang at Telegram, Amor, Jabbar's son, sang the national anthem, and for the last game of the season, every player wore goggles just like Jabbar's. He had touched many people during his life, and many of them wanted to show him just how much they care. They shouted his name during the games, and they sent him letters and gifts. They loved the way he played basketball, and that he was a good person who took care of his parents and his family. Everyone wanted Jabbar to know that they knew that he was the best. Even if he didn't always feel like he deserved their applause, he was their hero. He was, in the feelings of many, the best basketball player to ever step onto the court. Chapter 5. The Hall of Fame. Immediately after he retired, Jabbar completely walked away from basketball. He thought it might be forever. He had to get away. I had to get away, he said in an interview in a Houston call. I was totally, completely, and thoroughly buried out on the game, and thoroughly buried out on the game, and I had to give myself a chance to get my mind back in order. But even if he had left basketball behind, he was not forgotten. After 5 seasons of retirement, his name was brought up as a Hall of Fame nominee. No one except Jabbar had any doubt that he embodied all that is good about him. Now let's go to the history of the National Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. It says that the National Basketball Memorial, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame is named for the college professor who invented the game. In 1891, Dr. James Naismith sought ways to encourage youngsters to exercise indoors during the winter months after being ordered by his boss to create an indoor game in only 14 days. Winning outdoor games like soccer inside habit work. Students have been injured, with the deadline almost upon him. Dr. Naismith finds some priest baskets and asks a janitor to their team to kneel down to the ballerinas. Then he wrote down what became the first official rules of basketball. When the Hall of Fame building was elected in 1968, it was only natural to name it after Dr. Naismith. The Hall of Fame has 238 individuals and 14 inductees. Some of the individuals or players were other coaches, contributors, and referees of the 238 individuals in the Hall of Fame. 119 are players to be on it to be able, and player has to have been retired for full 5 seasons. Then a nomination form, a letter of support, and a pack of virtues about the player, such as newspaper clippings and magazine stories, are submitted. The nominations are screened and votes are placed. players are considered for their contributions to the sport and by how well they represent general sportsmanship and the politics of fair team play. Basketball. He told the New York Daily News that he was afraid he wouldn't make it in his first year on the ability, but that he was prepared to wait. The two of my the two of my all-time heroes, Dick Signer and Willie Mays, didn't make it on the first ballot. His father, Al, had no doubt. He was always different. A special kid, he told the New York Daily News when he went to Power Military Academy. He just sprayed his wings and flew away. Now I can say my son made it all the way to the Hall of Fame. Did I mention how proud I am of him? For his own part, Jabbar gave much of the credit for his success to those he played with on the court. He told Jet magazine, "No one gets to this level without good teammates, and I had such tremendous good teammates. Irvin Magic Johnson and Oscar the Big O Robertson were two stars that Jabbar felt had helped him achieve his success." Kareem Abdul-Jabbar officially became a Hall of Fame on May 15, 1995. Life after retirement. Although he spent his time after retirement between homes in Hawaii and Los Angeles, Jabbar didn't spend his time on the beach. He had other activities to keep him busy, including working on a documentary about the African American troops who had held Liberty, the Nazi death camps at the end of the World War II. He also wrote 4 books, The Photographies, Black Profiles in Courts, which was about overlooked African Americans who had accomplished great things throughout history, and A Season of the Revolution. Marcel joined with the white Martin Post oppressed. About time he has spent coaching Native American children. Ever since Jabbar had discovered the Scarhelmet Center for Research in Black Culture in New York City, he had wanted to learn about the historical days of African Americans in the United States. He quickly realized that many who had contributed wonderful things to the American history had been forgotten. In fact, he could have changed that by writing a book that featured some of these people. But he wanted to do more than write books and travel. He brought about trying to work in professional basketball, but he had been away from the NBA for more than 10 years. He didn't think anyone would want to hire him after he had been away for so long. The Buffalo Soldiers and the Empire. Finally, his attention turned toward Arizona. Some of the people Jabbar had written about in Black Profiles in Chorus when the Buffalo Soldiers, many of who had been assassinated in Arizona at Fort Uphill. The Buffalo Soldiers were a group who had served in the 24th and 25th Infantry and the 10th Cavalry. They had fought in the U.S. Army for many years along the United States-Mexican border, and in the wars against Native Americans. Jabbar was introduced to Eagle Perry, an outlaw who lived of the White Mountain reservation, and Wolf's grandfather, who had a scout for the U.S. Army. Agar helped Jabbar resource the Buffalo soldiers, including a man named John Glass, who had been assassinated at Fort Apache. Jabbar had brought a purser of Glass and wanted to know more about him, the Buffalo soldiers, and the Apache. In interesting in Native Americans was next short for Jabbar. His father's family, native to Trinidad, was part Caliban Indian. His mother was part Cherokee. Actually, Jabbar himself was one-quarter Native American. His desire to learn more about Native American cultures and the Buffalo soldiers was a natural fascination. He listened intensely and with great interest to everything Agar Perry said and showed him. Carter dies. Soon after leaving the reservation, Jabbar received terrible news. His mother, who had been very sick and in the hospital, had died. Jabbar was not surprised, but he was devastated. His mother, Carter, had been his first teacher. She had installed in him a love of reading and learning and a belief that education was among the most important things in life. Jabbar credited the most important things in life. Jabbar credited his mother with helping him focus his will to succeed on whatever he did. She had been his first guide in life, and now she was gone. Jabbar went to Colorado for a while and lived in Colorado while he grieved over his mother's death. He thought about her life and how she was his first teacher, and he realized that he was at an age where he should be teaching youngsters the knowledge he had gained during his lifetime. Jabbar had worked with children before, even back in high school, when he had gone to Friendship Farm with Coach Donahue. It was time to go back to teaching. A season of the reservation. Agar Perry visited Jabbar shortly after he returned from Chicago for Colorado. Jabbar told Agar he wanted to help kids by coaching basketball. The next day, Jabbar got a call from the superintendent of the White Mountain Appellate School System. If Jabbar wanted, he could offer his assistance to the Ashley High School basketball team, the Falcons. For the 1998-1999 season, because he didn't have teaching certificate, he would have to work as a volunteer. Jabbar jumping at the chance to work with the team. When he arrived for his first day of practice with the team, he was amazed by how different the squad was from any he had ever been on. For one thing, the players didn't talk to each other while playing. The Falcons game was silent. Also, the players were wild, often colliding into each other and tripping. Their shots were undisciplined and unplanned, and they couldn't dribble well. He knew that it would be hard to teach the boys the fundamentals of the game. It was possible they would not respond well to being singling out for instruction or correction. I want you to understand that I want to be here. I had chose to do with this with you. Jabbar recalls saying to the kids in a season of the reservation. I hope this is a great learning experience for all of us. Although Jabbar had never been good at giving pep talks, he felt it was important to say something on his first day of coaching. He wanted the kids to know he was there, not because of publicity, but to help them. At the beginning of the season, many members of the press showed up to write about the recent Hall of Famer who was now coaching a high school team. The boys were excited to have their pictures in our Sports Illustrated, and Jabbar was happy for them to have some attention. He hoped that their story might make other people more aware of the conditions of the reservation. Also, if cars sought the arts, they might be more willing to welcome their youngsters into their college athletes programs. They found that he was excited to be back on the court. Before he had been ready to get away, but now he remembered the things he had about basketball. He enjoyed hearing the speak of sneakers on the woody floors, the way the players on the team talked to each other in the locker room before a game, and the smell of the basketball, and the smell of the ball. He spent nearly all his time preparing in practice drills and working with the team's players individually. Slowly, he got to know the youngsters. He even learned a little Apollo language too. The children listened to Jabbar, but they didn't always leave his advice on the court. He showed them standing drills, and they would work on them for a while before going back to the way they had played before. Despite the fact that he was frustrated while trying to teach the youngsters fundamentals, he was impressed with their determination and spirit. During the first part of the season, the Falcons won 3 games and lost 3, but in their losses, Jabbar began to see what kind of spirit the players had. In one game, they were behind because they had made mistakes. The Falcons played harder and managed to score by the end. After 2 overtimes, the match was still tied. Jabbar got so involved in the game that he yelled at the official just like he would have done in the pros. He was afraid the official would tee him. This that is. He would call tactical foul allow the other team to free throws and possession of the ball in this game. That might cost the Falcons a win. The official didn't, but Jabbar's actions made the Falcons and their fans realize how much he liked them and wanted them to win. The other team won during the overtime, but the Falcons had proven they could play well, and Jabbar knew just how much he liked being a part of their lives. Coaching of the team wasn't just something he was doing to fill his time. He was sharing his knowledge and life with others, just as he had wanted. Slowly, the Falcons began playing better. They learned to pass the ball well. They didn't make as many unplanned shots. Instead of running frequently around the court, they ran the plays that they had practiced. While coaching the Falcons, Jabbar learned that he liked working with players on a one-on-one basis. He enjoyed watching them developing their style. He also valued helping them become better and more graceful athletes. During the season, Jabbar understood more about output of culture. He recognized the feeling of tepidness that the white mounting of pieces had for each other, even if they weren't related to them. Everyone on the reservation was their family. Jabbar was grateful that they included him in their unit. He was even made a member of the Eagles clan. The Falcons lost in the state tournament, but the experience was still a good one for both Jabbar and the team. He had discovered a love for teaching and had helped the Falcons reach the state tournament when no one thought they could. More importantly, thought was that Jabbar had rediscovered the love for basketball that he had put aside for a long time. He, he described his feelings about retirement in introduction to his book, Black Profiles in Chords. It was like saying goodbye forever to someone loved. It felt like a death, but it was also a rebirth. Because for the first time since I was 8 years old, I was free to explore my other's interests. Finally, it was time to mix his love for basketball with the other interests he had explored. While Jabbar returned to Los Angeles, he began to look for a coaching job in basketball, but he found that no one wanted to hire him after he spent a decade away from the game. He talked to his UCLA coach, John Woody, but the excitement and support of the people who knew Jabbar didn't spread to those who could hire him, not even his alum mater. UCLA would hire him as a coach. But then, in February 2000, the Los Angeles Clippers offered him a job as an assistant coach. Jabbar he said in an interview in the Houston Chronicle, I'm in this coaching business for the long haul. I'm just happy to be here and to have been given a chance to slow what I had to offer. Jabbar believed that the sport of basketball had changed, and not necessarily in a good way. What really fueled my interest was all the things that I see lacking in the game today. It's become a different game from the time I retired, and not a better one. Basketball will always be a part of Jabbar's life. After a lifetime on the court, he is ready to continue teaching us the skills and the lessons that he has learned. From playing on the blacktop courts on Harlem and Inwood to coaching at Ashley High School, Jabbar has shown he has what it takes to be a great player, a great teacher, and a great man. Jabbar is, and will always be, one of the heroes of the sport. That's the end of the final part 3 of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I hope you liked this book that I had been finished about 10 seconds ago. It's called Hall of Famer, Basketball Hall of Famers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And that was the book that I had just read. I hope you liked this video and enjoy watching little videos on the YouTube channel. Until then, I'm Joseph Crudup. I love Lord and God bless.